This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Game. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. That beard just gets better looking every single time I see you, man.
I got to keep it powerful for you, buddy.
It's intimidating. I'll be honest with you. It's a little intimidating. So,
yeah. Oh, perfect. That's what I strive for.
What a cool podcast, episode 126 with Danny Coyne, one of our Wild Sheep ambassadors, just a fantastic dude. And it was beautiful. We just ask him a question and sit there and listen to the magic for 5 minutes. It's so knowledgeable, so easygoing, and just a great dude, man.
Oh, yeah. Before shows, I'm sure you do the same thing. We got our little notes of things we want to talk about, boxes we want to tick, and as Danny's talking, it's like, oh, I don't have to ask that question, don't have to ask that question. You just made it easy. I'm pretty non-existent in this podcast, actually. It was perfect for me. I just got to enjoy the show, listen to you guys chat.
Well, it was the other way around on the last one, so yeah, it's nice to split it up. So, Danny really is an inspiration, and we talked a little bit about that on the podcast. You'll hear about this, is that, I guess if you're going to take anything away from this podcast, think about what can I do for conservation? What can I do for wildlife? What can I do for fish? What can I do for the outdoors? And get involved. And Danny, he's just a walking example of what being involved does and how important it is, and really inspirational.
Yeah, when you think of an ambassador for what we do or conservation in general, like Danny is the man. It's communication. He nails it. He educates every chance he gets. His photography is outstanding, and he uses that as a bridge to educate people because it opens up doors and conversations you wouldn't normally have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just you just start listening to, he's volunteering for, the fisheries. He's volunteering on the, at his local club. He's volunteering for the Alliance, the society. It's just like, oh my goodness, like your head's kind of spinning. And hey, man, I'm surrounded by super dedicated, talented volunteers day in and day out. Like I look at our board and the society and the volunteers that are involved there, but it's really inspiring to see this kind of work. And you just think of how much conservation work gets done in this province and other provinces too, and other countries, blah blah blah. But it's incredible how much conservation gets done by volunteers. It's inspiring, man.
Yeah, and when you get right down to it, it's only a handful of people, and you could only have a few more Danny Coynes out there. It's get a lot more done.
Yeah, well said. So I guess this is a bit of a call to action. If you're thinking about getting involved, there's never been a better time. And we can use you. The society wants you. We're looking for volunteers. And, volunteer, I've heard this before, volunteering has very many different faces. Yeah, there's out there, and you're on a capture, and you're wrestling a sheep, and that's the sexy stuff. I've never done that. Have you done that?
Nope, never done it.
Yeah, no.
Dream about it.
That's the stuff we dream about. But there's a ton of other stuff. We've got a work bee in Region 4 coming up in the Kootenays. So anyone that's interested in getting involved, that's going to be led by the BC Ministry, WLRS. But the society has a volunteer contingent in that. So Justin Kaluski's our contact there. So check out our social media. You can get involved if you're in the Kootenay region. And what you're going to do is you're going to go out and you're going to clear some sight lines for bighorn sheep in their winter range. Basically what happens, the area gets overgrown, makes the animals at risk to predators. So they clear up these sight lines. They have a much better chance of survival in the wintertime. So really important work that's being done there in the Kootenays. So if you're interested and involved with that. But, trade shows, all that sort of stuff. I know, Greg, you just came off the trade show circuit. You spent a lot of time standing in a booth, but sharing our message, advocacy, outreach, membership development, that's all really important stuff that we do.
Oh, yeah. There's so many different options for volunteers, too. You talk about the habitat enhancement, we got counts, the shows. It's every little bit helps, whether it's even, say, at our convention, if you're volunteering to help set up, like, we need hands, we always need hands. And if you don't have a specific volunteer thing and you want to go for, send one of us a message. We'll put you on a list, and we'll add you to a contact list, and next time there's something that comes up, we could talk to you. We've all got a little list of people that we use, and I lean on a lot of my guys fairly heavily. I'm sure you do the same, and we need those lists to grow. And man, we love our volunteers. So if you can come out and volunteer for anything, we're here.
Yeah, well said. Okay, before we jump into this awesome podcast with Danny, just a heads up that we got a really cool event going on this year. This is brand new for the Society. It's our Mountain Monarch Golf Tournament. It's in Kamloops, and Greg Nalloweg and Mike Surveyor are leading this one, and it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. They got a ton of stuff going on with that. There's going to be a whiskey tasting, and there's some wicked prizes. Our conservation partners have stepped up. We got a ton of really great sponsors, and this is going to be a frickin' blast. So if you're a golfer, it's worth taking the weekend and going to Kamloops and checking it out. You're going to have a great time. We got limited spots. It will fill up, so don't mess around too much. Head over to our website, wildsheepsociety.com/golf, and check out the website and get involved, get registered. It's going to be a great weekend on the links.
Well, there's no better place to have a golf tournament, in my opinion, right in the heart of Kamloops, right in the heart of sheep country. They're right down on the green all the time. They're there. So while you're golfing and having a good time, you're going to be staring at sheep at the same time. It's a win-win for everybody.
Well, it's funny. One of the guys that signed up is like, I'm not a golfer. I don't actually give a shit about golfing, but I'm going to watch the sheep. I'm going to drink beer, watch my buddies golf, and I'm going to look at sheep. I'm bringing my binos, and that's all that's going on. So I thought that was pretty funny. And but it's going to be a great weekend. The boys got a great program set up. Greg's done this before. He hosts his own golf tournament through his business, and just, by all accounts, it's an absolute riot. So I was really hoping to attend it. Unfortunately, I'm going to be away on another wild sheep excursion down south, so I'm not going to make it, but it's going to be a great weekend. So,
yeah, there should be lots of our team out there, so hopefully we see a bunch of familiar faces and some new faces, and everyone's enjoying some golf in Kamloops on, was that June 17th?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well said. Well, let's listen to the man, Mr. Danny Coyne, in episode 126 of Talk is Sheep.
This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Yeti. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Yeti, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems.
Hey, Kyle. How's it going, man?
Hey, man. Awesome. How about you?
Going great, buddy.
You're looking sharp there.
Thanks. Just got back from looking at some fresh lambs off West Side Road, so pretty excited.
Awesome. I see your cameras in the background there, all perched nicely.
Oh, yeah, those are my babies.
That's very cool. So what's going on with they're dropping lambs? Are they on the west side?
Yeah, West Side Road. Last couple of years, they've been here between like the 16th and 18th, so I figured they were there, and tonight I counted 7 ewes with 6 lambs, and one was really fresh, like wobbly legs, couldn't even the whole crab walking along. So yeah, it's good.
That's awesome. And they're are they right on the highway? You just looking up at the highway? They literally in the
you got to look up on the bluffs. It's so funny, eh? Like when you're sitting there and you know how this is, Craig. It's when you got a camera and you're looking up, everyone stops and looks at you like, what are you doing? Looking at lambs. What lambs? Well, if you look right up there, so yeah, they're quite a ways up on the shelf. Like I can't get decent pictures because they're like a 3/4 of a kilometer away, but
awesome. So, hey, you reached out to the society couple like last year, and there was a bunch of mortality issues on that road. What's going on with that? And are we going to do anything about that? Can we do anything about that? What's the status of that, Danny? Yeah,
I want to do something about that big time, man. Like it's vehicle traffic, right? And I think we've got probably 2 or 3. I mean, I don't have the numbers on it, but I mean, I've got horns of animals from hit right off the side of the road of ewes. And I sent you photos of how many times they've almost been hit. And even Darren Eppa came out here, I think it was in February when he was out here anyways. He's just like, man, people don't even barely touch the brakes for these sheep. So what I would like to do is try to get together with the heck they called Citizens Patrol guys. Like, when you're driving by, it says, this is your speed. So when the lambs come down, we have that purple fetch. I don't know. It's that purple little flower around here. And as soon as that starts to come and bloom, those sheep and that's right along the ditch. So the sheep come right down on there And it's usually about mid-June. And the lambs are like, I mean, the ewes are used to the traffic, but as soon as, someone lays on their horn, the lambs aren't. They're not used to it. They're not conditioned to it. So they'll sprint in front of a car and almost get hit. So I know we lose some mortality on it. And I know a couple of those big rams have been hit by cars as well. So I'd like to do some sort of campaign where we get the media involved, Wild Sheep Society BC, and then get that sign that says this is your speed on there. It'd be a good awareness project.
Do you think having like signage on the road, and I know that's problematic because Modi gets involved, and it's that I think that's it's a big process to get signage up there, or is there good signage already and it just doesn't?
There is. It's some of the best signage in the province for any wildlife, especially for bighorn sheep. Like every corner has a flashing light. It's not that people don't like know that they're there; they don't care. It's like they have no idea what is there, And we were talking about this at the show last weekend. Like we were applauding Radium, that community of Radium and out the Kootenay Trench, and how that community came together to rally up against their sheep. And here we are in the Okanagan with a silent problem that no one is talking about and really doesn't care, right? I mean, those communities out there are very much vacation rentals. People come in from Vancouver and Calgary with their high-end cars, go ripping through there, and same with their motorbikes and right around the sheep. And it's kind of sad to see that, really.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking citizens on patrol or whatever, some sort of awareness campaign there, and I guess the media couldn't hurt, but it's probably not going to help as much, especially if they're out of towners that are doing speeding, right? I
think like because we did that, was it October? I did that post with Info News, and that got a lot of that got a lot of attention. A lot of people shared that. Like I know, like I reshared it, the reach I got alone on that, and then the comments were people like, I found more people voicing up for sheep than they have before in our community. So I think media is definitely important. I mean, Castnet will jump on it, CHBC will jump on it, or like I've got some like through the fishery side of stuff, all those. There's like 3 different reporters in town that kind of do wildlife stuff. They'll be all over this type of thing.
Right. And what role can we do? Like what should the society be doing? Just awareness on social media, that sort of stuff, or what?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty simple. I think I got to reach out to that local Citizens on Patrol, try them again. They're through the local RCMP, and then just see if they're interested. And as long as what I'll do, Kyle, is I can draft up an email, like just presenting myself as like with a representative with the Wild Sheep Society BC, and this is our concern. And I like to reference the radium because there's so much noise about it. And and I also like to mention that it's one of the healthiest populations of wild sheep we have in BC is in our backyard right here. So, and then just say we just need to get their help, and we just pick a day and go out there and just do some awareness. So maybe me and one other volunteer really is all I need on the sheep side of stuff.
Right. Yeah, right on. Awesome, man. Well, hey, welcome to the podcast, and we're rolling, by the way, if you didn't clue in, and that was some of the best content's caught off when it's just supernatural, but yeah. But welcome. It's really cool to have you on, Danny, and you do so much on so many levels, and Greg and I were like, oh, what are we going to talk about, Danny? It's like, we can go any direction with this, and I guess we'll just go every direction, to be honest. So, but I guess maybe start off, Danny, talk a little bit about, where this passion for conservation, the outdoors, fish, wildlife, where does that all come from? Was this something you were born with, or something from a very young age, or is this kind of something you've sort of has grown on you?
Yeah, so like I grew up in the small town of Princeton, British Columbia, right in this like heart of the Similkameen. My family's been we have a big farm through there, and my family's been in that territory for hundreds of years. Like I am a member of the Upper Similkameen Indian Band, and growing up with my dad and my grandfather, our outings were just amazing. And one of the things that they instilled into me and my brother was, we didn't just walk through the bush. My dad and my grandpa were always telling us like how the entire ecosystem played like a role in each other, like how it all came together. But most importantly, like really truly taught us about like, we're farmers too, right? So like understanding like carrying capacity of a landscape and how wildfire is good and how you can't have too many animals, and if you don't have enough animals, and understanding that. But I guess where it really came from for me is like, I'm a 4-H kid. I'm a 4-H lamb kid. I grew up throughout the 4-H program, incredible program, especially when you live in a small town, get to meet a lot of people. But so I had a love for livestock, and especially sheep. And then when I moved away, I moved out to Cranbrook, and that's when I met my wife, Marina. And, we were both fishing and going outdoors. And I grew up fishing and hunting with my family and such. But and then when I moved to the Okanagan, I couldn't believe how many people did not have the same opportunity that I did. So when I talk to people like, hey, you want to go fishing this weekend? Like, I've never fished before. What do you mean you never fished before? You're 28 years old. You never fished before? Well, do you hunt? No. Do you even go hiking? Well, kind of. Well, why not? Well, no one's ever taught me that. I said, well, that's kind of crazy. So from there, it was the big shocker for me was when we had a kokanee die-off in Wood Lake out in the Okanagan. And that's the big light bulb that went off for me, is that I knew that people were not connected to our natural resources like how I had the privilege to grow up and learn from my grandpa and my dad. But also is that I was taken from a resource that I wasn't really acknowledging that needed to have to be given back to. So that was in 2012. And so I just literally, I watched it on CHBC News, and then I read it in the newspaper about this kokanee crash. And then I picked up the phone and I found the reporter's phone number, and I called her and I said, listen, I want to get involved. How do I help out? Well, anyway, she connected me with the Olshula Fish and Game Club, and I met a gentleman named Rick Simpson and an amazing board of directors. They invited me into the club. They start to mentor me, and then doors just start opening up of opportunity for me to get involved in not just fish, but also in wildlife. So I found that you have to get people to really care about a resource in order for them to actually want to do something about it. So if they have an invested interest, whether it's catching a fish or even looking at a photo of an animal on a wall, it reaches them and it connects them with that animal or with that fishery. So I found that was really important, but then I had to try to get people also engaged into it, because I also acknowledged that, hey, there's not a lot of people that, again, like I said, they didn't have this opportunity. So we started up some Learn to Fish programs with the Freshwater Fishery Society of BC. We started some programs with the ice fishing program. Started off with 14 kids, and then 5 years later, we had 436 people on the ice at one time. Like, through the program, I counted up, it was over 1,500 people, families we put through this program. And then we start to see the license dollars come through, because they're buying fishing licenses. And then we convert them over to, introduce them into the club. And then the year later, we're seeing these people that never fished before, and they're out doing conservation wildlife work. I mean, that is just awesome. They care about it. So as we, if we want to get louder and about to try to get, when I say louder for the needs of our wildlife, there's a quote that I live by, and it was by Theodore Roosevelt, and it says, wildlife and their habitat cannot speak, so we must and we will. And man, is that ever powerful if you think about that? You look at that bighorn sheep, and it's like the whole herd's being riddled by Moby. Well, it can't do anything, but you know what? We can, right? And I don't think it's it's not our obligation, but it's our privilege to be able to help these animals and help our natural resources. So, and then, I got involved with the fishing side of stuff, and then the pandemic hit, and I've always wanted to, Greg, looking at Craig and Greg's, pictures and Darren and Peter's pictures. I'm like, man, I really want to get some photos like these guys. So I went out and learned how to do wildlife photography, which was kind of a dream of mine. And that opened up a whole nother door of conversation to a demographic of people that are not maybe our community directly. But now I'm having the one campfire kind of scenario. I'm having these conversations with non-hunters that, they're taking photos of these animals, but they don't know a lot about them. And I'm able to educate them. And I'm coming in there from a hunter's community base, and being able to connect with them on that level. And all of a sudden, us hunters aren't so bad. And I love seeing people now taking their pictures with the Wild Sheep Society of BC that was opposed to hunting, So it's all about connecting the dots. So I know that's a long-winded answer, Kyle, but that's kind of where I'm at with that.
That's awesome. There's so much I want to peel back there. And I guess the one thing that, really resonated with me was your comment about people are not connected to natural resources. And, you talked about one of the ways that you do that, but, it's interesting. I was listening to Rogan today, and Joe Rogan was talking about exactly that. Like, a lot of people, there's too many people out there that, when I go hunting, I see too many people. We got to keep people out. And Rogan's like, that's the only way we're going to keep this thing going. If people aren't connected to wildlife and don't care, we're screwed. So I guess maybe I'd love to hear your perspective, and Greg jump in too about, how do we keep people engaged? And there's this whole urban-rural thing that's happening in BC where everyone's in these big cities, and there's this really loss of connection to wildlife and fisheries and all that sort of stuff. And there's just no exposure. So how can we build on that? Of course, take people fishing, take people hunting, but what else can we do?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just literally doing more outreach on the problem with the hunting community is we have a PR problem, in my personal opinion. Everyone thinks we're all about the grip and grin, which we're not. If you ask any hunter, if you can keep any photo of your sheep hunt, what's the photo? Or sorry, if you had to get rid of one photo of all your sheep hunts, but you get to keep all the rest, they'd probably tell you, I want to keep all my adventure pictures leading up to that point. So we need to have open communication with these people, but with the people that don't understand it, but also getting out there and sharing our story from our aspect of how much we truly care about these animals, and look for those opportunities. When I'm out there with my 600 millimeter lens, it stops a lot of people in their tracks, and they look at me and they go, wow, that's a crazy camera you got there. And then it just opens up this, I'm like, perfect. The door's open and I'm walking in. I'm going to have this conversation with them. And I do lead the conversation down, and I tell them, they ask me, well, how did you get into it? I'm like, well, I'm a hunter. And well, wait a minute. And we start to have this conversation, but it's a conversation that we're both at the same table. But, this last week we were at the BC Interior Sportsman Show, and I had, my goal there was to educate as many people as I could on the 3 diseases that we had through the Okanagan in the last 5 years with our wild sheep population. And the amount of awestruck faces I saw when people did not know that we had MOVI in our area, or didn't even know what it was. So having those conversations and looking for those opportunities is really important to do so.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. The photography leads into those conversations. It gives you a good opportunity to open up and educate, and that's how we're going to get to people, is the education aspect of it, right? And you're one of the great ambassadors, and you even have that title with us. You're a wild sheep ambassador for the Wild Sheep Society. The newest one, 1 year old now, I guess. But your voice and the way you communicate through your photos as well, it's been incredible for us, and we appreciate that.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
So, Danny, you talked about you grew up. Did you grow up in a First Nations community, at a young age, or how did that work? I'm just curious about that, because where I want to head with this is traditional knowledge, right? And I'd like to talk a little bit about more of that, and whether or not you grew up in the First Nations community, or whether it was on a farm as well. There's so much knowledge on the land base, the traditional knowledge, or the knowledge that as a you being on the landscape understand. How important is that knowledge in science today?
Yeah, so I did grow up on a farm, and my history on the First Nation side is that if you're aware of a gentleman named John Fall Allison, he was the first European settler in the Princeton area, and he found the Allison Pass, which is between Hope and Princeton, pretty much opened up the Similkameen area. And his wife was Nora Yakatikam of the Upper Similkameen, and that was my second great grandmother. So I'm off that side of the First Nation side. So my grandfather, we didn't grow up on a reserve. We grew up on, we have a ranch. We literally have a sign that says Coyneville, population 23. And we're all there for the last 100 years. I'm still the only Coyne boy that left the farm. I'm the black sheep of the family. But the one thing that I was able to grow up with my grandfather on that same farm, and as well as my dad. And it was a regular occurrence of us going out together. I remember this one time, and I was just a young kid with my first pellet gun. And anyways, bunch of pigeons came down and start eating all the sheep's grain. So I figured, well, I'd do some predation control, I guess, or whatever against the grain. So I came back all proud, holding on to a pigeon. And my grandpa looked at me, he goes, and it was a look that I was not expecting. And well, anyways, I plucked that pigeon and ate it that night. And that was the last time I ever harvested anything that I should have never harvested. So, wasn't that pleasant, but it was a good learning experience for me. And then we grew up with, there's growing up in the area of like farms and stuff like that. You have dirt bikes, you have ATVs and such, but they even taught me like, don't be, this is a riparian area. Do you know what this plays in role with this? Like, do you know how this connects to everything else? And then, this is grasslands. Don't be ripping your bike through there because that's going to destroy it, and how long it takes to come back. So, I mean, that's kind of where my connection into it. And then very much on the farming side of stuff. I mean, a lot of people did not want to, I think Jason Bellow said it on his podcast, and I laughed pretty good. He's like, no one ever wanted to visit him on the summertime. I know that feeling because everyone's going to work if they come to the Coyne house.
Awesome. So does the farm life call for you? Like, obviously you're highly connected to the outdoors. You spend all your free time, touring around, spending your time outside. Do you have that calling to the farm at all, or you're good where you're at?
I go back and play a lot. That's for sure. In the late 90s, there were some changes done to like the farming, the way that you can actually process your own, as a small farmer, process your own meat. So we actually got out of the livestock game a lot, and then we went to more of the alfalfa. So I don't miss picking bales or changing pipes at all. So that's fine. I miss having, our cattle and our sheep, that's for sure. But actually, it's one of the main drivers that actually got me, like, we hunted growing up and such, but it was one of the main drivers that made me a serious hunter, was that, I grew up, like I said, was through the 4-H program, understanding, like, I could butcher my own animal at the age of 13. Like, I knew how to break the animal down. I mean, that's how I was judged on my 4-H lambs and everything else. But when I moved out, and when my parents got rid of their livestock, because all the kids, my brother went to college, I moved out, and I had to start buying my own meat. And it was one of the first times I realized this beef doesn't taste like what our beef tasted like. And are you kidding me? A leg of lamb costs $50. This is ridiculous. And then I started to look and like, well, what's in this meat? Why does it taste so different? Oh, I don't want to put that in my body. So that's when I went back to hunting. Is like, now I became a serious hunter. Like, I want to hunt for my food, and I live a very nutritional, organic type of diet as much as I can. And that's what calls to me for hunting as much.
So would you say that the majority of the stuff you eat and meat wise is harvested by yourself, or it's wild meat in some capacity, fish and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would say at least 80% of my diet of protein is definitely wild game or fish that I've caught myself. And then my parents have a lot of vegetable, like have a very large vegetable farm. So they do the farmer's market. Well, my wife and I go out there every fall. We harvest, we actually can, or we like blanch the vegetables. It's all organic. And then we freezer it, and then we eat that for most of the year. So if we're eating, it's always nice when you look at, I think you guys know the same feeling. When you look at that plate and you go, I put that food there and I know where it came from. There's no better feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just talk a little bit about the 4-H aspect of it. I grew up too in 4-H, and just loved it. I was in horse and beef, and never had any. We didn't have any sheep. We weren't in the sheep world there. But how much of an appreciation does that give you for, I guess, not wildlife, I guess animals, really? I know that it certainly played an impact for me, and was that, and I guess being on the farm too. So, how does that, even just domestic animals, how did that sort of frame your, I guess, respect for animals?
So a couple ways. First of all, I'm going to talk about the disease, because when I watched Transmission, I got really upset because this is so preventable. And, as a 4-H kid, one of the first things we learn about any animal, like sheep or cows or horses, is that it's our responsibility to be ethical farmers to make sure our animals aren't sick, or they're not going to pass on any other thing to wildlife. So when I was watching the Transmission film, it brought me back to the days of, I can't remember the young family's name there that was in radium in the film, but it reminded me so much of my mom and dad when I was younger. But we used to put all of our sheep through copper sulfate baths to make sure, like that's a foot bath, to make sure we don't put foot rot on the. I mean, we used to free range our sheep, and then we check for sore mouth. I mean, my family did not have big money. It wasn't so. They were very responsible farmers, and that's the way we learned in throughout the 4-H program. But what we learned was that how much it can quickly affect if you take a domestic herd and put it across it over to, if you're free ranging, which a lot of us do in British Columbia, we have responsibilities there. And I'm not saying that the farmer today is not that, is turning a blind eye at responsibilities. I mean, Kyle, you've been through the 4-H program, and farmers are extremely passionate about this. I mean, 99.9% of them are. But I've had these conversations now about Moby with other sheep farmers. They don't even know what it is. Not most of them don't know what it is. And I've had talks with ex-4-H people, and I ask them, hey, what do you think about this? Or what is that? And they have no idea. I'm like, this blows my mind on this. So there's that aspect. But then it's also helped me actually enter the conversation that's so hard to have. And that's when I've had experiences where I'm selling my photos at a Christmas craft fair, and people come racing up to me and just, how dare you want to have to kill these animals, and they're accusing me for being a hunter. And then I look at that opportunity as an opportunity, because I approach those conversations actually as a farmer. So when someone points at I have a couple beautiful photos of huge elk, and people look at me and go, how can you even try to kill that animal? So then I always bring the conversation back to, okay, something along the lines of, if you have 100 head of cattle and you have 20 bulls in that field, all trying to breed, and out of those 20, you have 5 old boys that have already passed on their genetics, they're as old can be, the first thing that rancher is going to do is not have those bulls breed that herd. The reason why is because he's already done his job. He's already passed the genetics on, right? So I take that aspect and I apply it to wildlife as well. So when someone's telling me, we had that big full curl stone sheep mount at the show, it goes like, that's an old one. Too bad it was shot. I'm like, that thing wasn't even probably even see another winter. That thing was like 10, 11 years old. That is an old boy. So harvesting that animal makes zero impact. Just like if the cattle rancher chooses to take that old bull out of the corral and let his genetics, which he's done a great job, yet let the younger bulls do their job and breed the rest of the herd. So it allows me to, and once it's funny when you have this conversation, you start to connect it to from wildlife management to farming management. People are like, the light bulb goes off. It's like, well, that makes sense. And then, it brings the hostility down a little bit, and now we can have that open conversation. But you probably had the same thing, Kyle. Like, I remember showing at the P&E, and I had activists come up to me on my market lamb, and we were trained from like 13 years old on how to deal with some of these conversations.
Yeah, I kind of lived in the backwater part of the world. There wasn't too many activists out there.
Oh,
so
yes, there you go.
Yeah, I guess that's the one. But I do find it shocking now. I see these 4-H kids, and there's protests, and there's people coming after them, and making them really uncomfortable. It's incredible. It really, really shocked me that they're so engaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it does come down like I remember going through after that one show that we went through, and they put us through a little short program of just changing our vocabulary. It made sense. Instead of saying butchering, we say process. Instead of saying killing, we dispatch. It's just, we use the same jargon, I guess you can say, when we're talking about hunting.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then you talk to some of the old boys, and you kind of they don't like killing an animal harvest, that sort of thing. And they it's like, no, you're not being honest about what you're doing. It's like, well, no, I think we're just talking a little differently, right? A little bit more sensitively, I guess. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, not everyone's conditioned like we are to those words when they're not, when they don't grow up around it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about, so you've done a ton of stuff in the fishing world, and the hunting. Do you have a preference when you think about going outside and you want to, and I see you're grabbing your camera now, you hunt, you fish, is there one that stands out for the other, or does it kind of change as you go, or How do you choose what you do for when you recreate?
I would probably right now if my freezer's full, it's definitely the wildlife photography. That's for sure. I'd rather go. I mean, Peter and I were talking about the same thing. Like, if I'm going to go on a sheep hunt, which one day I hope to pull the draw that I would love to pull, but I would actually be the guy where, like, I'll bring my camera, you bring a rifle, I'll be your pack boy. Let's go document this adventure. I just love being out there. And then I would say, like, hunting for sure. And then I got to fishing takes the very back seat now. That's a definite, yeah.
Right on. So would you say, as you kind of mature now, like, and you talk about grabbing the camera first almost, do you feel this is a maturity thing? You've kind of gone out, you've done your thing, and of course you want to fill the freezer and all that sort of stuff, but you're not proving anything. You don't need to sort of, get anything to prove anything to anyone. So has that changed with, I guess, maturity or age?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point, actually. I remember the first few years I was first getting seriously getting into hunting. Like, when I was a kid, I would go with my dad, but I mean, I'm talking like in the last 10 years here, like, those first couple of years, like, I was crazy about it. Like, it's all I would chase anything I could and try to fill as many tags as I could. But then I started to realize, and the same transition happened when I went from like fishing, and then I realized that you don't have to catch everything and keep it. You can catch and release, and then understanding of like what the ethics behind it. Like, yeah, your limit might be 5 fish per day, but really, do I need those 5 fish? And can this fishery sustain me fishing the same fishery for 25 days out of the year? Like, so a lot of times I grew that way of like, instead of getting my limit every day, it's like, okay, I'm going to catch and release today. For the hunting side, the first couple of years, yeah, I was a nut. I was going after, just whatever I legally could go after. But now I've realized, and also too, like, I've grown and I've become a better hunter. So, if I know if I go out for a good week hunt, I'm going to be able to pretty much harvest something. But I'm not looking. I mean, I'll shoot a 4 point or greater, on a mule deer. I'm not going to, that any buck season I try to stay away from, because maybe back then I was trying to go after it, but now I have more confidence in myself. But it's not about the kill anymore. It's about just getting out there. And I love going out with more than anything. I just love mentoring other people into hunting. That's actually what gets me jazzed up more than anything, is being able to mentor someone. I mentored a new hunter this year, and he got his first muley, and I was able to show him how to field dress it. We were lucky. He shot it right by a creek in hot weather. So I was like, yes, you're getting it easy this time, man. So yeah, doing that definitely matured that way. I progressed definitely over the last 10 years.
All right, on. So I think you did, by the looks of your history, you've done a lot of and what you talked about earlier, a lot of mentorship on the fishing side. Is the hunting mentorship kind of new? And are you still doing the fishing mentorship? How does that tie in, the two of those?
Yeah, definitely. Like, just the other night, I did a kokanee webinar for the BC Wildlife Federation. And the reason why I think it's still important on the fishing side is because, again, if we got to connect these people, like, if people have never hunted, the easiest way I find to get them transitioned over to become a hunter is to actually get them fishing. And then it's like a stepping stone, right? Like, I mean, that's really how I went through it. But it's also not just about like hunting, but it's about, for me, I'm like looking at the revenue model side of things. Like, for the fisheries, get them fishing, they buy fishing licenses. They come over to the hunting side, they start to buy hunting licenses. So now we've got some money coming from them. But also too, is as soon as they start doing that, they start to care and feel connected and want to actually get, they will write letters to their local politicians about when there is a problem in the area. So I definitely will still do the mentoring on the fishing side, more introducing, the amateurs into it. On the hunting side, I'm cautious of how many people, because I'm still like, I would not call myself an advanced hunter in any way. So I'm still learning. I still have my mentors I'm learning from. So, I mean, yeah, in the future, definitely, but not nearly as many as I did with fishing. That's for sure.
Right on. So you talk about mentors. So what kind of mentors, who's mentoring you now? Who's out there and keeping Danny Coyne on the straight and narrow and teaching him new things?
Yeah. Well, I did have my biggest mentor was Sean Richardson, and unfortunately we lost him to cancer a couple of years ago. he taught me so much. And really, it goes down to the guys from the Osceola Fish and Game Club, like Nick Kozub, he's the president of the club in Region 8. Jesse Zeman, he's from the Federation. So those are the guys I chat with on a regular basis and, pick their brains. I do a lot of solo hunting. Like I got my wife into hunting, and that's been a game changer. So there's a lot more days out there hunting in the fall, which is great. And she's way better at spot and stalking than I am. I will say that. So, those are the guys. I mean, that's my biggest piece of advice too, is if anyone wants to learn how to hunt, is just join your local fish and game club. Like there's so many generations of knowledge that are just eager to share it.
Yeah, awesome. So has Marina harvested anything yet? You've taken her out? Has she gotten anything?
Oh yeah, she's harvested 2 good-sized muleys. She put me to shame. And she's a hell of a shot.
That's cool. So, Greg, I know that you and your wife, you've got her hunting now too. And interesting, Danny, my wife just, she started hanging out a bit more, doing this stuff with our conservation group and with the Wild Sheep Society BC, and now she's into it as well. So she's doing her course as we speak, and her and I just signed up for an archery course together. So, but I always wondered, is this like a marriage enhancer or is it a marriage breaker? Is it strengthen your relationship or does it weaken it?
Strengthen it, man. Yeah,
yeah. Right?
When I got my core, and I was telling about like how really like it's not just going to teach about hunting. It's going to teach about all, like we've all been through the core program. Like it teaches you so much about wildlife. So now she's picking, like we're going to the local pond. She's like, oh, that's this type of duck. That's this. I'm like, yeah, good. Like she, so it's definitely a marriage enhancer.
Awesome. And no competition, or it's all good.
Competition. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's talk. So I noticed on your profile that you talked about BC Fishn Media. What's that about? Tell us about what that is.
Yeah, so BC Fishn Media, it's just what happened. Like it's bcfishn.com. It's a website that I started up, I guess, 12 years ago. And my brother was building blog websites, just learned how to build websites. So he said to me, he goes, I'm going to build you a fishing blog, and I want you to write a couple articles. I said, well, I've never really written before. I mean, I barely passed English in high school. Like, I don't know if I can do this. He's like, well, I'm building you a website. He's my older brother. So I'm like, all right, Spencer, I'll write you an article. So a month goes by, and then he sends me a text. He's like, are you going to write me this article or not? I'm like, all right, I just came back from walleye fishing. Let me write you a walleye fishing article in the Columbia River. He posts it, and then within like 2 weeks, I had like 2,000 views on this one article. It's like, damn, this is a lot of people reading that. He calls me up and goes, did you see the numbers? You got to write me another one. He goes, you're a kokanee guy. Write some kokanee stuff. All right. So I start writing some other stuff. Well, my inbox starts to get full. I'm like, oh, this is cool. There's a lot of people here that that want this. And so I approached it at a non-pretentious aspect. Like I want to reach the family, the normal angler going out, the guy that doesn't take himself too seriously, and just to get out there and do some fishing. And that's how I write all my articles. And it really took off for me. So on average, we'll get about anywhere between, 15 to 20,000 views, like unique visitors to the site. I got to get my site updated. We're struggling with that right now. And then it opened up a ton of doors for me. I got a call from Bob Loomis from Max Lure down in the States. If you know the fishing rod company, G Loomis, with the G Loomis rods. Well, Bobby Loomis and his uncle Gary started that company and ran it. So this is like the Tiger Woods to me for fishing. And he mentored me and took me on and taught me a lot. And then it opened up some freelance writing for some like Western Woods and Water magazine, some other publications. And then I'm on the TV show, The Northwest Outdoorsman. So, and that's throughout the entire Pacific Northwest and all the way from California, Oregon, all that whole area, and then up all the way through Canada with Wild TV. So yeah, it's been a ride, but where I get the most excitement is when I'm able to do things like I did the other night with a webinar, introducing people to fishing. And then I get those emails going, I appreciate the help, but can you help me some more, and giving them information. And then about a week later, they send me a picture of their first kokanee or their first rainbow that I helped them catch.
That's fantastic. Okay, tell me a little bit about Northwest Outdoorsman. What's involved with the show? Let's talk about that for a second.
All right. Yeah. So Richie Hurd, he's talking about mentors. He's like my best buddy mentor. He lives outside of Wenatchee at Leavenworth, Washington, and he owns a company named Hurd Outdoors. And he has the film or the show called the Northwest Outdoorsman, and it's a hunting primarily and fishing show. So we were getting a really rolling, like we did, I think 4 episodes together, and then the pandemic hit. All we were doing fishing ones throughout, like up by we did a nice fishing one here in the Okanagan. We did a couple up in the Caribou. I dropped into Washington, did some shows with them there, and it's a documentary kind of storytelling kind of style of fishing show. And again, it's about normal guys going out there, not guided. You're not with a guide. It's us going out there doing it on our own. So there's going to be days that we'll be out there not catching fish and not harvesting an animal, but that's just the way it goes. So it's just telling the journey.
Awesome. So are you sticking strictly to the fishing side, or are you going to start doing some hunting stuff as well with them?
No, it's kind of a little bit difficult between the borders, right, on that side. Right. So we're trying to arrange it. I mean, Richie's just so busy, and we're going to try to arrange it where he comes up to film a hunt up here in BC with me eventually one of these days. Yeah, it's just lining our schedules up.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the webinar. So you do the webinar. You did that with the BCWF. Do you guys take anyone out on the lake and go through any of the stuff, or is it just talk them through it and then they're on their own?
Yeah, it's just, we don't do any sort of guiding, that sort of thing. It's all like classroom type of sessions. So part of the BC fishing thing as well is I'll actually, with Max Lure, I'll pretty much tour around the province and give you learn to fish like seminars. So I'll go into retailers, trade shows, that sort of thing, and educate people how to fish.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, so let's transition a little bit to your volunteer work. So there's the mentorship side, and then are you still a director with the Okanagan Fisheries Foundation, or are you still involved with them?
So the Okanagan Fisheries Foundation is kind of a little quiet right now, but where I'm spending most of my time on the fishery side of stuff is the Ocean Fishing Game Club. And then what we're doing, that's a big project actually, is, so I'm a fisheries committee chair there, and I have been for the last about 10 years. So if anyone's familiar with the Okanagan area, we have a large lake called Kalamalka Lake and Wood Lake. And those are 2 of the largest natural producing kokanee lakes we have in our province. And for the last, I guess, 8 years, I ran a fish trap program where we actually trap spawning kokanee that come up the creeks. I recruit about a volunteer team of about 60 to 65 volunteers that we start from mid-September to the end of October, 3 checks a day to the trap. And then the ministry team comes in at night and scoops the fish and checks them. So it's organizing a lot of volunteers. The fish trap, my dad and I made it. We built it out of aluminum. It's been used in the Wood Lake as well, like Middle Vernon Creek that feeds in the Wood Lake, and then as well as Coldstream Creek that goes into Kalamalka Lake. So I've done that. That's a big project. I've sat on the Sport Fishing Advisory Committee for Region 3 and 8 for the DFO. That's been a really good opportunity to kind of, especially with the non-titled salmon, like sockeye fishery in Osoyoos, getting in there and helping, give some recommendation for regulations, when the closures, when the opening should happen. Working very close with the Okanagan Nation Alliance, that group does to mitigate those regulations. And then, the Freshwater Fish Society of BC is that putting on these learn to fish events. And then just the other day, they called me and we put up the net in Shannon Lake for the kids fishing. So pretty much, I'm the guy that if they need some volunteers, give me a call. I'm going to find them. So we'll get the work done.
Very cool. So talk me through the fish trap. How does that work? You got the volunteers; they're checking the trap, and then they moving the fish into a holding tank, and then, or how does that work? What's the involved?
Yeah. So what we do is like the creek is about 25 feet wide. So what we do is literally put a fence up. It's a aluminum fence made out of expanded aluminum, and then in the very middle of it, there's like this cage with a funnel, and the kokanee will swim through because they're looking for any opening they can to go upstream. And even if they come back through the funnel, they swim back into it because they're so keyed in on of swimming upstream, just like salmon, right? And then as they get stuck in the trap, and that's why we have volunteers that come 3 times a day, because we don't want these kokanee in this trap. And the trap is 8 feet by 4 feet, 8 feet long and 4 feet and 4 feet. So they get in this trap, and it's underneath water, and it's about, I guess, 3 feet underneath water. And then we scoop the fish, we count the fish, and then all we do is we put the fish on the other side of the trap so they can continue to go upstream. And the reason that we're doing this, it's actually quite interesting, because since the 50s, they've been doing visual counts of stream spawners. So they would, I believe the old equation was that for every fish you saw, you would times it by 1.5, and that would convert to how many fish are actually in the system. Well, what we did is for 5 years straight, we compared the visual counts on that old formula to literally catching every single fish and counting them by hand. So now we have 99.9% accuracy to the guesstimate, right? And we were finding it's more closer to 2.3, 2.4 conversion rate. So we've been using a wrong formula since the last 50 years almost. So this formula is going to be used for the entire Okanagan now, and we're going to probably Freshwater Fish Society will probably be adapting that to or adopting it for the rest of the province. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, that was my question. Was it specific to the creek, or is that specific to the species or the entire province, or how does that formula work?
Yeah, it'll be for kokanee, for stream spawning kokanee. And then we had another trap through the Penticton Fly Fishers. We're running a trap down in Penticton as well, off Penticton, I think it was Penticton Creek. And they were doing the same type of idea, same project, and they were getting the same numbers. So the same conversion rate was definitely, so it'll be applied for the entire valley, Okanagan Valley, but there should be no reason that there'd be a difference between these fish and other fish throughout the province.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, so you've been doing a lot of work with the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance. Let's talk about your role and what you do with those guys.
Yeah, so Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance. So Darren Epp contacted me, and Darren Epp's been a great mentor for me for my wildlife photography. And so he reached out to me. He knows I'm a goat nut. On our farm in Princeton, actually, I'm spoiled, man. We've got 38 resident mountain goats that live right in front of my mom and dad's house, or on the bluffs. So
cool.
I got to grow up. Well, they didn't actually move in there thick until I was about 19 years old. But every time I go home, there's the goats. And watching them literally, we sit there in the yard and just look up and we watch these goats. It's amazing. So it's one animal I'm really connected to. I love mountain ungulates. And so I got the opportunity to go take some photos that most people can't get. And Darren contacted me and says, I know that you enjoy goats as much as I do, and would you want to get involved with the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance? And I said, absolutely, because I find that there's not a lot of attention to goats in British Columbia, and a lot of the same concerns that with wild sheep are happening with goats as well. I mean, habitat loss, there's disease coming, so the goats needed a voice. So I hopped on board there, and I'm now the Okanagan regional representative for the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance. So we'll be working with the ministry as well as the Wild Sheep Society BC, hopefully doing the bunch of counts, counting the goats, recruitment, and just getting more outreach programs going about awareness.
So is your main job as a representative to be liaising with government, or is it coordinating volunteer stuff? Is it all that stuff? How does it differ, say, from a director? I guess obviously you're not in a board meeting, but what's the differences there?
Yeah, it'll literally be me connecting with my local biologist to make sure, hey, if they have something that needs to be done, that we're here to assist for that volunteer work, but also to be the eyes out there that I can bring it to the biologist if there's a concern. And then also doing like any membership, you need to grow your membership, so creating awareness and recruitment. But then, we had one thing came up in the Kootenays of a possible resort going to the backcountry that had a very possible threat to goat and well as grizzly area. So we hopped on that and brought it through our science and conservation committee, and we decided that it was best that we reached out to our politicians. So I wrote that letter on behalf of the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance to bring the awareness and saying that, hey, we would like to see some more, evidence here that this is not going to affect our goat population in the area, just some more science. And we got a good response from that.
Awesome. So what's the main stuff going on with the Alliance right now? So I'm a life member, a huge advocate. Love what you guys do. Love the leadership team. Love the reps, and I see you guys really growing in BC. I see reps kind of all throughout the province now. Is really good representation. Let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing and change with the Alliance these days.
Yeah, it is starting to grow pretty quick in the interest of it, and I really think a lot of it, like for me, I found the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance through the Wild Sheep Society of BC. Like to be honest, I didn't know, and then I watched actually, I think it was a Meat Eater episode that had the guy from Stone Glacier on there, and then he said something about it, and then I found the video of how to properly identify a nanny to a billy. And that's the other thing too, is that we're really big in helping educate people on, like, is this a nanny or is this a billy? And I provided a ton of pictures for that as well. Like on our social media campaigns, we'll post it, like, and they're not up close photos. We'll say, is this a nanny or a billy? And it's great to see all the people. And man, I've stared hundreds of hours through a lens at goats, and there's still times I'm like, man, is that? Yeah, I know it's a billy. No, maybe it's a nanny. It'll change. So doing that education, but the big thing that we're working right now is a standard operating procedure right now on to how to properly like get a count together. So that way, when we approach biologists, not just in BC, but like in all of North America, that we approach a biologist, that we have a template that we can go to and say, like, this has been worked on with other biologists, and we're going to collect the data in which way that you guys are going to need to use it. And it's going to be pretty much a fail-safe kind of standard operating procedure on how we handle our counts. And I know Jeff down in the Lower Mainland, I believe he just finished a count. I think he started to use that, or he will be using it. So I haven't had a chance to connect with him lately, but I'm really excited to see that, because when you do go into conversations with biologists, some biologists, they know how to use the information, and then some other biologists going, I don't know how this is going to apply. But because the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance has that Science and Conservation Committee made up of some top-notch biologists and informed folks there, they're able to help transition this information into practical information for management.
Right on. Okay, so you talked a little bit about recruitment and membership. So if somebody's interested in the Alliance, how do they get involved? How can they reach out to you? Go to the website. What's the best thing to do there? Yeah,
go to the website, goatalliance.org, and definitely sign up for the yearly membership. And then on there, there's a contact page. You can go to just find me on Instagram or Facebook too as well, or just Danny@goatalliance.org. Send me an email. If you're especially if you're in the Okanagan or Kootenay area, definitely want to connect with you if you want to get involved. We need some more eyeballs out there for sure.
How are the interior goats doing? Are they looking good? Are they struggling? And what's it looking like in the BC's interior?
Well, what I can see so far is we've got some pockets of concern. Like they're up in the Cusp area, the New Denver area. There are some questions there. We just got a collaring project that the Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance helped to get. So I haven't seen the data through that yet, but there has been a number of years of concern up there. So we're hoping to see that information come through. In the Okanagan, man, Okanagan Similkameen goats, in my opinion, I grew up in this area and I've never seen so many. It's looking really, really good. Those burns definitely help out. It's we've had a lot of burns in the last 5-6 years through this area. So I'm finding that it's definitely helped that goat population. Along the Similkameen, there are tons of goats through there like I've never seen before. I was just glassing at Okanagan Mountain Park the other day, and I counted I think it was 36 goats just off the one ledge, which was good because there's a nice draw in there and that nice LEH. And I don't know what the biologists have for their information there recently from the last year's counts, but it's looking pretty promising in my opinion.
Awesome. So abundant habitat, disease isn't really an issue. Winters are pretty mild in the Okanagan in the interior. So, what's the biggest threat? How are they predators? What's the big risk for goats in the area?
Well, right now, for these low altitude goats, there's definitely that Moby, because we've got that on the Okanagan Mountain Park sheep, and they share winter range. Those goats are overlapping a lot on them. So I was talking to the local biologist, and he's like, we don't really know exactly, if the goat herd has been affected yet or not on it. And Darren and I have been talking man, we want to get in there, just put some glass close on some goats to see if any Moby, symptoms are showing or not. Based on what I can see, I'm counting from the lake and up, but there's still quite a few goats in there, but you just never know, right? looking at how hard it hits and how fast it can move through a herd, that's definitely a concern. Predation, yeah, man. There's like I told you, we have these 38 resident goats on our property, and I mean, in front of our place, we've got like a mountain face that's a rock mountain face, goes up like 1,500 feet. But on the very top there is a grassland, and there's this ledge that these goats usually just use throughout the wintertime. And I go up to this ledge, and I thought they were goat tracks. When I looked down, it was actually all wolf tracks. And these wolves were actually pushing these goats, and I followed these. I couldn't believe it. These wolves were actually pushing these goats like out on the ledge. But seeing where those wolf tracks were going, like these things are, I mean, it was a tough winter this year with the snowpack, but those wolves were definitely keying in on those goats 100%. So, and then cats, cougars in here as well. They'll pick off the odd goat as well.
Yeah. So you talked about 38. Is that been fairly consistent? Like, I'm guessing you're out there counting them every year, obviously, right?
I got names for all those ones. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny, eh? Like, we will lose a couple, but then a couple, the recruitment for them is very strong up there, but there's some older nannies in there that haven't returned. So it's like we lose 3 or 4 and we gain 3 or 4. And it's a very distinct herd of goats that are there. Yeah.
Very cool. How about any eagles? You ever see any bird predation on anything there?
Yeah, I got to bite my lip on this one. Yeah. It's, the majestic bald eagle. Actually, the golden eagle is the biggest predator for them. But
Right.
I've never seen one take it, but it's crazy when you watch them fly by and how fast that kid gets underneath that nanny and that nanny crouches down. They work hard at trying to knock a goat off. And we found goat carcasses. My dad found one. And I found one at the base of the bluffs, whether it fell or the eagles got it. The reason we found it is because we found eagles on it eating the carcass. Right. So, But today I was just saying, like, just before this podcast, I was out on West Side Road and looking for some lambs, and how I find them is I don't even look at the rocks. I look up to see where the eagles are. And sure enough, there's 2 eagles circling right where the lambs were. And I look down, yeah, there's the lamb. So they are very much predators of lambs and kids. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think the predation rate is incredibly high, and they obviously don't know exactly how high. And it's one of those things, there's not much you can do about it. Like you can't start hunting eagles,
No, exactly. And then nor do I want to, but it's just like, it's like a catch. Like, come on, really? Like, get away. Because I mean, especially for, in our sheep populations on a recruitment alone, it's like, it's the last thing they need is an eagle to pick them off right now.
Yeah. Okay. So there's all this reverence for goats, and obviously you're closely connected to sheep too. Any goat hunting stories? Have you drawn a tag? How does that fit into your psyche?
I haven't drawn a tag yet. And I got to stop applying for that one tag because I'll probably never, the odds are ridiculous. So my cousin is really after me to get after a goat way up north. So we might look at that next couple of years. With my job, it's really hard. Like, my busiest time for me, for my career is August and September, or July, August and September. So it makes it difficult to get away for a sheep hunt. So, but it'll happen one day. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, the focus of putting them back on the mountain is a pretty good, a noble task. So appreciate that. So let's talk. I think, we tried to put together a podcast here, and you were down south I think in Utah, were you doing some photography work? Let's talk a little bit about, what you keep busy with on the photography side of things these days.
Yeah. So actually it was Nevada, just outside of Vegas, Red Rock Canyon and Valley of Fire. It was a good compromise trip for my wife because she wanted to go to Mexico and I really didn't want to go this year. So I said, hey, hon, and it was when Darrenette was down there taking some photos of these beauty rams in this red rock vista. And I'm like, I want that shot so bad. So I remember sitting there on one Sunday morning, I'm like, I found a perfect resort for you, babe. And she's like, oh yeah. And I showed her this red rock resort and a beautiful pool. She's like, oh wow, where's that? I'm like, just outside of Vegas. She's like, when are we going? I'm like, I don't know, how's 3 weeks sound? So we booked that trip. And now, don't get me wrong, my wife, she's an avid outdoorsman as well. And she came and we put on, I think, probably over 60 miles in the week looking for sheep. And she got her pool times. It was good. But yeah, if anyone gets the opportunity, like, if you go down to Las Vegas, just make the 1.5 hour trip east and go check out that Valley of Fire. It is so cool to see bighorns in that fiery red rock. There's nothing like it. I've got one photo just above my computer. I've already got it printed of a lamb. It was a tough conditions. We couldn't find them for the first 2 days, but then the third day it came together. We got some good photos of some lambs, so it was good.
Awesome. So when you pick up a camera now, obviously those pictures, they don't taste quite as good as a tenderloin off an elk or something like that. But how's your enjoyment compared to out there and harvesting an animal? What's the comparison between the two?
Man, it's almost the same. And I'm, in my opinion, I get to hunt 12 months out of the year because I become a better hunter as I became a photographer because I'm with these animals. I've not only learned their characteristics, but especially like leading up to elk season, I'm in there just before season taking photos of them. So I got a head start on most guys, which is great. And then when you get on a big full curl ram that, I'm not talking like a West Side Road and Kelowna ram, but like a nice ram that you've taken your time to like checking your winds to get up on, even to take a photo of, there's not much difference between hitting that shutter button or that trigger. Well, the only difference is I'm still clean at the end of it. My card film, I get to go home with no work. So, and same thing with bugling elk. I will say that I'm an elk nut. I love going out in elk season and calling elk in and getting them bugling at me and coming running in and slamming that shutter button. And I haven't filled the tag on the 6-point elk. I haven't got an elk that. My buddy got an elk that I got some meat from that I got to help pack out, but I never got one myself. But one of these days I'll get that 6-point. I've called in 6-point preseason and I've called them out of province, but I haven't got them in my area, but it'll happen.
Awesome, Danny. Well, hey, we've already taken an hour of your evening. You've been generous with your time. We just can't thank you enough, as one of our ambassadors, the work that you do and creating awareness and these dialogues and all the time you volunteer and put the effort in and reaching out with us with, hey, there's issues here. We need to deal with this. And, and I think too, if I could just sort of get on a soapbox for half a second, like for our listeners, look at Danny, a guy that, was never really involved, never heard of the Goat Alliance, and now you're one of their regional ambassadors. Goes to show you that the world's run by the people that show up, right? So it's, people think, I don't need to get involved, or, how do you get involved? It's so hard. It's just make a phone call, pick it up and get involved. And there's so much work. We need so much support. And, for the society, the Alliance, these fishery organizations, Osceola, these groups that you're involved in, we're all involved in. They're run by volunteers. This is what we do, and we need the support. So I think you're an inspiration, man. I love it. I love what you do, love what you stand for, and just so grateful for everything you do.
Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
Greg, anything else to close her off?
No, I think you guys covered everything, and just appreciate what you do, Danny, and great. Keep sending the content to us.
For sure, buddy. Absolutely. My pleasure.
I'm thinking, though, if you're such a prolific writer, which you are, and you've got fish, and I think we need some sheep writing going on here, buddy. So, if you, I know you got so much spare time on your hand. You're just sitting around with nothing to do, right? So, we would love to have you.
One in December. We can look at doing that for sure.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.